New nations to explore, a parent love story, and the imminent beginning of a world ninja war. Not much time will pass on since the last game, because 1 year later from the release of Storm Generations, on March 3rd, 2013, a new adventure would begin, Storm 3. Before we get started, I wanted to let you guys know that this review will be divided in 2 sections, since there's a lot of material on this game to highlight, and I think it's better when it comes to communicate my ideas in a better way. So this will be part 1, and if you hit the like button, I will soon bring you part 2. Let's roll it. There's one particular reason why a lot of fans of this saga were just like this when we initiated Storm 3. The spectacular style from story mode seen in Storm 2 was finally back, and better than ever. 3 years after the events of epic battles on the first chapters of Naruto Shippuden, we would now have the possibility to live this kind of story once again. Well, we kick off with a little detail. If you had already played the previous Storm games, you would get a reward that could help you on story mode or would be useful to get some new characters quickly. Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 3 shines in all the aspects thanks to the adventure they allow us to experience just where we left at Storm 2. Things kick off with a flashback battle to relive one of the most important events in Naruto's story, the Nine-Tail Assault to the Leaf Village, in an excellent mix on how to generate tension in a dangerous situation. At the same time, they introduce us to the most important characters in the events, how Minato deals with the Kyuubi's attack and tries to stop the individual known as Toby. Since they settle different perspectives for the player to go through, the ultimate decisions were added. This is a mechanic that allows you to choose which way you want to go in order to continue the story. These options were always Legend or Hero. Hero would be the most accessible option and Legend the most challenging one. This is important to keep in mind since through many battles in the sections, we could activate another aspect about the storytelling, the secret actions, cinematics and quick time events that would trigger by an input related to what happened in the anime, the likes of clashing chakra dashes, pulling off a jutsu, or just by using a sub. This brings a lot more dynamism to the battles and were the moments where, in my opinion, you actually felt as you were in the original fight inside the manga. Actually, if we look carefully, this Storm is the one with most visual similarities adapted from the manga. It has a fidelity that could equal the one seen in Storm 2, or even surpass it. What do you guys think? It's a shame that we had seen so little about the secret actions though. The cinematics felt a lot longer, but not boring. All the opposite, it was a reflect of the developer's effort to make everything more believable. The character interactions, the transition between arcs, and developing the perspective change of many characters using their own points of view. The dialogues were not just text on the screen, even though that didn't disappear, the most important lines of the characters counted with their own in-game cinematics, with unique gestures and attention to detail. It was the ideal balance between cinematics and established dialogues. After this first encounter with Toby, they brings us back to the situation inside the village and how they are dealing with the Kyuubi. Here they wanted to start the story by bringing an epic experience. It's a very used strategy in the movie and TV industry. You kick off with strong, emotional and visually awesome scenes in order to catch the audience attention from the first moment. Here's where we highlight the importance of a first impression scene. Here we play as the third Hokage, who is in charge of leading the forces to repel the Nine-Tailed Fox. This is the first of many boss fights that we will see on the go. Again, we have elements like the movement between platforms to fight against an enemy that is considerably bigger than us, the use of shurikens, jutsus, support attacks as partners from all types of clans inside the village. Some of them have their own interactive cinematics, the music used in the section, the new animations, the original anime dialogues, and well, the good use of the quick time events we all know and love. Is a combination that makes this first boss fight one that would be remembered for the rest of the saga.
Ramen, ramen. しかもかかし先生のおごり。嬉しいってばよ。
After all this chaos, the story resumes where we left off in Storm 2, with all the villagers rebuilding their home after the Pain's Assault arc, and here we are able to see more new elements. The world exploration came back with an identical style from Storm 2. You move between pre-rendered zones, and you can even get to new villages. In this occasion, we have a lot more to explore, since on this game we have a new perspective from the ninja world with the inclusion of the Cloud Village, the Rock Village, new forests, chores, etc. They all have NPCs, secondary missions, friendship level again, object farming, and the use of other objects that are significantly important to gain the upper hand in combat. Getting back to the story, as we all know, we are heading towards the Iron Nation for the 5 Kage Summit. We literally walk to the next scenario, and we start to know some new characters. One thing that I really loved in this section was how well they managed to represent the indecision mindset and uncomfortable situation of Naruto. The Raikage denies his request to cancel the annihilation of Sasuke. Tobi makes very clear that he is, at this moment, manipulating Sasuke. Sakura tries to fool him to take that weight out of his shoulders. Gaara even tries to convince him that trying to bring Sasuke back to the village is already a lost battle. Situations, one after another, that communicates very well thanks to the music's absence and those almost melancholic thoughts of Naruto trying to clear his mind. Is a very well written point of the story, making good use of the game's resources. I really liked it. Sasuke infiltrates the reunion, as we all know, and here's where we have another mechanic that I really enjoyed. It's just great. I'm talking about horde battles. Here you have technically the same combat system as the traditional one, but with numerous enemies at the same time. A one-man army format with a lot of inspiration from the hack and slash genre, where you can attack simultaneously to a bunch of enemies in a matter of seconds, using technically the same inputs in the traditional battles. You can do a grab, tilt, jutsu, using a sub, shurikens, support attacks, and even an ultimate that triggers a quick time event in order to knock off all the enemies around you. Something that makes you feel powerful, the strongest one in the room. Is really enjoyable, and this also makes sense. At this moment, Sasuke is facing samurais that are pretty competent opponents, but let's be honest, they are nothing compared to the power Sasuke is able to manifest at this point of the story. The horde battles were a concept that, at least for me, was well received and left me with very high expectations of what could come after this. Sasuke manages to track down Danzo, he escapes, the Tsuchikage almost kills him, but Tobi saves him and teleports him to where Danzo is, just to leave him achieve his vengeance, a moment everyone was waiting for. Honestly, I expected this fight to be a boss one, or at least that would count with some secret actions, since it's a great fight inside the anime that brings great action moments and choreography, but that didn't happen. All the opposite, the new encounter between Naruto and Sasuke was the one that took all the attention from the developers with cinematics and quick times. But don't get me wrong, this fight has one of the best battle rhythms inside the series. It has great moments. This was not canon entirely, but they certainly are great inclusions to the game's development. Something similar happened to Naruto Storm 2. The second time these two get face to face, they barely interact with each other with a couple of dialogues, but on the game, this was represented as a full action scene. I understand why they do this. For them, it's much more reliable to make a battle of Naruto vs Sasuke, the protagonist and the antagonist of the series, instead of a fight of Sasuke against Danzo, from which they had a lot of material to work with. Those are creative decisions, but it doesn't bother me at all. I just believe that this material was not fully leveraged. Anyway, after the call of war from Tobi in the 5 Kage reunion, the game tries to make us feel inside the conflict. The Kage reunions are long, yes, but they offer us a lot of context of why these decisions are being taken in the story. Any person that hasn't watched anything related to the series would understand perfectly why these characters do what they do, why they decide to hide Naruto alongside Killer Bee for him not to notice the war, why they choose the Raikage as the commander of the Shinobi Alliance. Everything would have a logic explanation, and very few anime games managed to achieve this. And talking about Naruto being hidden, after the good representation of the dark side of the character, we encounter the next big boss fight, and it's against the one and only Ninetales. This time inside Naruto, and will try to control his chakra. Again, I don't get tired of watching the good mechanic decisions that were made for the gameplay. Very good rhythm, use of the inputs you already know. A new ultimate decision is brutal. But all of this was interrupted by Kushina's chakra as she saw Naruto was in trouble. At this moment, the game decided to give us a lot of context in retrospective of what really happened to Naruto's parents that chaotic night, allowing us to use Kushina and Minato in the process. One of the best executed scenes adapted to the game's engine is the one of their death by the hands of the Ninetales, with the dialogues directly took from the manga to bring an even greater emotional impact. A great job. After this story concludes, Kushina helps his son to defeat the Fox Demon, making an excellent use of their iconic techniques and the same ones used on the series, and finishing with the new Kyuubi chakra transformation of Naruto. We now get to the point of what happened just before the beginning of the 4th grade ninja war, the fight from Guy against Kisame, finishing with the death of this Akatsuki member. A not very relatable death scene, but this was obviously due to the censorship of Bandai Namco. This scene was originally much more violent. He was eaten by his own sharks to make sure no one would take information out of him. Then we get to the death of Conan scene, with a very satisfying way of execution, but one that felt very forgettable as well. And finally, the 4th grade ninja war begins, with the Gaara speech scene. In my opinion, this was a scene that I thought would generate much more in me, since it counts with the same dialogues that indeed caused great emotion in me, and I came to the conclusion this happened for one single reason: the music. The Naruto soundtrack is spectacular to say the least, and this theme alongside Gaara's words is what really makes an impact when it comes to appreciate this scene. However, there was nothing the developers could do here. The game counts with his own composed soundtrack. The troops get divided in order to start the battle. The game allows you to have a more general vision of the battlefield, everything from the General Intelligence Headquarters, a map with the information of what is happening with all the divisions simultaneously, but lets you pick the order of the fights. This was a very good decision to contextualize the player of what this war means for the characters: Mifune versus Hanzo, Kitsuchi and the rest of Live Ninjas against the Setsus, the Kakashi and Gai squad against the 7 Mist Swordsmen, a battle that could not be represented in other ways than a horde battle. I love that they applied this concept not only for regular enemies but also for fearless shinobis like the ones here, with their own unique moveset, something that really represented the menace of the rivals, and it was even better using Gai in the process. This game chapter is so much fun. Another element used as a boss fight and even with secret actions was the battle against Sabusa and Haku. This duel brings back all memories with flashbacks of what happened several years ago, and an emotional weight that CyberConnect wanted to include. Maybe a bit too late to feel the hollow of this arc on the first Storm game, but it was almost like the developers wanted to revindicate themselves with the cinematics. But anyway, I really appreciate that. This is how we conclude the 6th chapter of the game and also the first part of the review. Remember to show a lot of support on this video, and I promise I will bring you part 2 as soon as possible. Thanks for watching.